What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kind of Funny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Mike, and I am joined by my guy, Parris Lilly, back after 2 weeks gone. We missed you so much.
I missed you too, man. Yeah.
I had to kick Gary Witta out to get you in. So, it's a lot of give and take here. So, Gary is not going to be here this week, but I do have Parris back. And Parris, I know you've been running around, having a great time. But how have your 2 weeks been? How have you been, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. It's been a hectic last couple weeks. I did miss being on here. I definitely was checking out both episodes. Shout out to Miles and Colt for filling in for me. Really appreciate that. But everything's good. Family's good. Can't complain. Excited for E3.
That's what I love to hear. E3 right around the corner. And for everybody listening out there, you're probably saying, what the heck are these guys doing on a Wednesday posting? Well, we got something special for you. But first, I got to announce our special guest. My good friend, Kahlief Adams from the Spawn on Me podcast is in the building. Kyle, what's going on, my guy? How are you?
What up? I'm excited to be rocking with y'all. Excited to see you both. It has been, I think this is the first time we've had a chance to actually rock a show together on a Kind of Funny platform. This is the best way to do it, is rocking with you, Mike, and the rest of the team. I'm good. I'm chilling. I had my first post-pandemic hug of other human beings last week, or this weekend, I should say. So now I'm hug deficient. I need more hugs. But it's been a good week. It's been a good couple
I got a question for you. Have you learned to throw a dodgeball since Friday night?
I've learned to get hit with a lot of dodgeballs in the face. But I hold my own in terms of the Knockout City world. Don't you try to come in here.
The crew that we played with on Friday night, we were all holding our own. It was fun.
You did your thing. I think there's some little bit of a performance enhancing drugs on your side, Barrett. I think you being young and having reflexes and having eye-hand coordination and being probably 20 years my junior at this point. I think I have debt older than you at this point.
I have a theory. On that.
What's that?
My theory is, at one point, Barrett actually ate some of your food and it built superpowers. Because your food's that terrible.
It was so messed up. It was like a radioactive spider almost, and it gave me super reflexes.
Wow, this is how y'all do me on
welcome to the show. We love having you here. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate this. It's good. All right, I see how it's gonna go. Okay.
It is awesome to have both of you together, and it is really cool that we all get to rock together, because this episode's a special episode, and it's one that I'm really excited about because I get to talk with you two about the next generation of Battlefield. That's right. Buddy. The reveal has dropped today, and me, Kahlief, and Parris got to go behind closed doors and see the reveal early and learn more about the game. So we're going to break down a whole lot of Battlefield for you, and that's going to be right after this quick news from the Housekeeping. Of course, this is the Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames and on roosterteeth.com, and of course, podcast services around the globe. Do me a favor, if you're out there listening on podcast services, tune in this weekend, because E3 is upon us, and the Kind of Funny crew is going to be giving you all the live reactions and post-show breakdowns that you want to see over on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. And if you can't catch it live, you can check us out over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames as well, where all of the VOD content will be posted. But E3 is going to be upon us, y'all, and you don't want to miss out on the fun with your favorite personalities from Kind of Funny. And we'd like to thank our Patreon producers, Donovan Harkness, Omega3, Tyler Ross, Delaney Twinning, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, Casey Andrew, and Elliot. This episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by Purple Mattress, Upstart, and Candid. But we'll tell you all about that in a little bit. Let's jump right into it, guys, because I can't wait. We've sat on this for a little bit, and I got to get it out. I got to talk Battlefield 2042 with the both of you. It's so exciting. Drop the 6, put on a nice year on this, and let's get futuristic/modern. So, of course, we're talking about the reveal that came out there. We got to talk more with the developers and learn more, but let's just gauge the excitement in the room right now. Parris, I've missed you, so I'm going to go to you first. How you feeling after seeing this reveal trailer?
After seeing this reveal for 2042, I'm pretty excited. And I think one of the very smart things that they did was they dropped campaign, and this is going to be multiplayer only. When we look at the player count that's going to be on PC and on the next gen systems at 128, that instantly got my attention. And the reason I say dropping the campaign is important because for me, I stopped engaging with Battlefield campaigns a long time ago. The reason we play Battlefield is that multiplayer experience. So if they're going to dedicate more time and resources to refining this multiplayer experience for Battlefield 2042, that's what we want, because that's why we're here to play it. So I'm pretty excited about it. The maps that they showed off, they all look pretty impressive to me as well. And we're getting a couple game modes right at launch, but this is what we want. This, to me, because it's funny, Kahlief and I were kind of texting each other back and forth as we're watching reveal, and I was saying to him, this is giving me that Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 vibe. To me, that was peak Battlefield for me. So I'm pretty excited for it. Really looking forward to it.
Kahlief, how you feeling?
I mean, definitely share the sentiments that Parris shared. I know once, you get that email in your inbox and you're like, oh snap, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
It's about to go down for real. So I decided to go back and play some Battlefield 4, which was my favorite Battlefield. And it just reminded me so much of what is so good about that ecosystem and that IP and that game. Most folks don't know. They ask me all the time, like, what is Spawn on Me? Where'd you get the name of the show? It is a direct relation to Battlefield in that series, because I love that game so much. And seeing that they're now, again, doing the thing that I would hope that they were going to do, which is move it away from World War II. Yes. That makes me so happy to see that setting change is going to be there, because that's the thing that I feel was holding the series back at this point, was kind of sticking to those old guns and those old weapons and those old vehicles and all that kind of stuff, when I feel like everybody really right now is like, let's go future facing and let's see what we're going to do when we get into the spaces where we're kind of using, not too distant tech in terms of where we're going to wind up landing. So I am above the moon about where we're going to be for this game, and super excited to see what they're going to show next.
You guys got me really excited, and I'm so pumped to talk about more details with you. Parris Parris hit it out the park. There's no single player. We're going multiplayer only. This team is going to focus on it, and that's going to be fun to talk about with you too. But you guys said it so well. I'm so excited once again to jump back into Battlefield. This is exactly what I was looking for, that modern futuristic setting where we're back to the helicopters, the planes, the big futuristic buildings all around you. And that's what I wanted to see. And this reveal really hit on all of that. And of course, Parris knows it had that Levolution, and that's what I'm looking for.
I thought of you
this
immediately.
Awesome. He said it in the presentation, Parris, and I was like, Parris knows that I'm looking for this. Is right. And I think, it's funny, Kahlief, I jumped back into 4 and 5 with my friends, right? And we were playing 5 and I'm having fun. And there were some questions that I had for my friends of like, how much could you really play this, right? We were playing conquest mode. That's the big domination warfare zone. And I'm like, there's some fun moments here, but also I'm lacking that competition. I'm lacking that competitive edge that I'm looking for in this. And I just feel like I'm running, I'm gunning, I die, and then I come back and we do it again. But there's no real competition. And so it was interesting to think of like, well, now we move forward and we're going to go multiplayer only, 3 distinct multiplayer modes they're going to promote here. And I'm wondering, will I feel that sense of competitiveness, or will it always be Battlefield, the big open sandbox where I'm kind of an ant in the grand scheme of things? I'm not having a gigantic deal with it. You know what I mean? I'm not having a big moment.
I love that because, of course, you and I and the rest of the crew, when we get up into some COD, we play that often enough. And there is that layer of, when you're playing, especially the Battle Royale mode, of getting that bigger victory in that space. I think the thing that has always been the reason why I love Battlefield is because you are a small cog in a big team.
Right.
That's the reason why I like that, because to a certain extent, you don't have a role in other games like this, in other series. And now you can focus in as being a specialist in multiple ways. I remember, me as a support class, and I was super proud of being a support class in Battlefield 4. I was like, I'm the person who is keeping our tickets alive. I'm keeping us in this game. I'm making sure that we're not going to lose because I'm reviving people and doing that work. I get to now go back into this game and have a little bit more of that on a bigger scale, with the ability to kind of have more teammates around me where I can be again, a part of my own kind of small squad that pulls it together. And then when you do get that one, you do wind up getting that victory. You're like, I don't even know what half my team was doing on the other side of the map, but I know what I was able to do for my small part of my team. And I feel like that part of that gameplay is going to come back. And that, again, is what Battlefield does better than anybody else.
Yeah, it's really exciting. The big warfare. And I want to break down the quick. We'll get the game description. We'll jump right into what we learned and saw with that reveal trailer and the information we got with the development team. So, of course, the game description. Welcome to Battlefield 2042. Is the next generation of Battlefield, powered by cutting-edge technology that pushes the capabilities of next-generation hardware. The game drops players into a near-future, all-out warfare experience that includes the franchise's hallmark game-changing destruction, featuring matches filled with up to 128 players on the latest consoles and PCs. This unprecedented scale adds new dimension to multiplayer battles. Battlefield 2042 also ups the action with the inclusion of real-time events that reshape the battlefield and tactical combats. All new weapons, vehicles, and gadgets give players the freedom to be strategic and create jaw-dropping, only in Battlefield moments. That is the catchphrase of a lifetime. And it's funny because, yes, we saw this early, but when I was playing this with my friends over the past week, I could feel those only in Battlefield moments, right? The tank crashing through the side of a building, a giant, skyscraper dropping to the ground, the helicopter banging into things. And it was like, this is Battlefield. And that's what makes this franchise so special. Kahlief, 128 players. Yeah. This is big, right? We were used to 64, and now we're going to up that ante. Of course, we'll put a little caveat on this for everybody listening. That is on next gen. We'll call it still Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and PCs. The older versions of the consoles will still have this game, but it will be 64 players, and the maps will be tailored to that. But 128, Kahlief, this is what we wanted, right?
I mean, this is the thing that I think a lot of people have been asking for when they thought about what next-gen gaming was going to be from a player count perspective, where we were going to see those numbers go up in a way that kind of matched where we saw most people on the PC side of it. I again, when I think of all those parts that come along with what we're going to see in a new game like this, you talk about evolution and destruction in those ways. It makes me think about Parris's cooking, about how everything burns up around it when there's food on the ground. It makes me think about all those things when we're figuring out how, placements of not only vehicles are going to be on the map, because that's the thing we're going to talk about, during the conversation today as well, about how not only player size counts are going to be different, but how vehicles play in a game like this, because you'll have more vehicles on the map in a bigger scaled map, which I think was also something that was really interesting to hear them talk about when they talked about the kind of new versions of Frostbite that they were going to be using for this game, and how big the maps were going to be in comparison to some of the other ones that we had previously seen. So I think that there's conversations there about, how player counts are going to go up and how, we're going to be occupying these spaces now in kind of bigger and more powerful ways, which is going to be real cool.
Yeah. It's funny you say this is something that people didn't quite talk about or put big on their checklist of next generation, right? When we talk about that next gen power, I want to see more players. I want to see the biggest and the baddest maps out here. And that is really exciting because 64 did feel like a lot, but replaying Battlefield 5, there are definitely distinct moments where you are running alone, right? You could be running to a point over on the far side of the map, and it will be dead silence for a solid 30 seconds to a minute, depending on where you're running. And now you think of, well, let's up that by double. Let's see what happens. I think there's going to be a lot of combat and a lot of exciting moments here that we're going to see. And you touched on it, Kahlief. Not only are the maps getting bigger, but that means we need more point of interest. We need more situations where people are going to get involved in different dynamic, awesome opportunities. And they touched on it of like, yeah, there's going to be big set pieces, but there's also going to be little outlets and little pockets where people are going to have these firefights that you might not ever see. You might not ever even adventure into, but like, we're going to make sure this whole map is used. And that's a big one too, because if you up the map, you got to make it interesting in all the areas. For me personally, like I can't run out into just an empty desert and not have anything going on.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings up what you're touching on, Mike, because they talked about clustering and they talked about sectors that are going to be on the map. And clustering is where they try to get the action focused on one section of the map. So everyone's gravitating towards this one section of the map. but then you also have sectors inside of that where you're going to have objectives inside of those clusters as well. So that kind of keeps the action going, and you're not going to have all the players just spread out over the map. We're all going to be converging into these particular areas. And then when we talk about the 128 player count, one other thing that's coming to this, they're going to have AI bots in the game as well. I'm of two minds of that. I think this could either be a really great thing or it could be a catastrophe. We obviously don't know yet until we have hands on. Just because I wonder, when we talk about, as far as it being a bad thing, are they going to just be sitting ducks and there's just easy kills, just some easy points and things that people are going to be picking up along the way to get to the real encounter when they're going head to head against some real people? Now, obviously, when you get into some servers where it's just it's real people the whole time, that's not going to be a problem. But I do wonder if you run into certain maps where basically the AI is filling in the gaps because you can't get enough people on the map at any one time, especially in the 128 section of it. So matchmaking, things like that. Obviously, we know Battlefield on the PC is known for having private servers and all that. I'm just interested to see how the AI bots are going to integrate into this. I mean, they touched on it a little bit, but obviously we need to see it in the real world to truly understand how it's going to be. Because honestly, the first thing that came to my mind was Titanfall. Because remember, Titanfall did that, and it was terrible.
They were just cannon fodders. They're free points for me.
Right. I do want to piggyback off that, because I think one of the really interesting points that they brought up during the conversation was about how you can level up your character too by playing against bots, which I think that's going to be an interesting kind of trade-off to see where that's going to wind up being and how that kind of relates to the character progression and how you unlock certain things within your character progression. And that's so if you have those folks who are going to be, potentially kind of boosting their rank by playing a lot of bot matches as opposed to playing just against humans, and seeing how fast that progression is going to wind up being for characters, that may wind up being a problem. So that's a really good point that you brought up there, Parris, for sure.
And to piggyback, because I'm thinking of this real time, and again, we'll have to see how it works. If I can create a private server, I'm filling it with AI bots, and like you're saying, Kahlief, I literally just go in there and I just level up my character, and then I take that progression, then I hop into a competitive server with other people. Am I getting an advantage out of that? Does it not matter? I don't know. And I guess that's what we need to find out when the final game's out. And I'm saying this is, obviously, I'm not going to immediately say it's a terrible thing. We just have to see it in practice. But I think overall, and Mike, I don't know if you were going to go here with it. They laid out the maps that are in here, and I want to read it so I don't screw it up.
Yeah, please.
Kaleidoscope, which is more of a cityscape. You're going to have skyscrapers, things like that. Manifest is an island on Singapore with like shipyard containers, that kind of setting. Then you're going to have Orbital, which is in French Ghana, and that's like a rocket launch station. Discarded is in India, and you're basically fighting along a shoreline, like a shipyard shoreline, fighting over nuclear assets. Sounds pretty cool. Borderline is a huge agricultural area, and there's going to be a harsh climate in there. Weather effects is another thing that's going to be in the game. Fantastic. There's your Levolution, Mike.
Yep.
Hourglass is another huge map, which is going to have a sandstorm going through it. Levolution again, through a desolated city. There's going to be sand dunes. And then Irreversible is the biggest map in 2042, and the setting for that is in Antarctica. Some of the stuff that they showed from all these maps, I mean, it looks great. It looks fantastic.
Madness.
It really does.
How good that stuff
really does. Yes.
So good.
It's so exciting. And you brought it up, the dynamic weather, the Levolution, right, of like what could happen and what they will move towards. I want to circle back really quick to the AI, because, you brought up a good point of like looking on the opposite side. I want to look on the opposite side as well. On the other side of it is the excitement of being able to play against AI bots by yourself, or bringing your squad in to play a match against AI bots, because they brought up bringing in new players to the franchise, bringing in people that aren't as good as you to go have fun, right? I think of my little brother. I think of my girlfriend, right, who looks at me playing Call of Duty all the time, and it's like, man, I'd love to play with you, but like I see what's happening on the screen, and I'm not going to do that, right? And it's like, I would love to show my friends and family and anybody out there in the gaming world these certain games. And I know a lot of people are scared because of that competitive edge, right? They think of Mike, and it's like, I'm screaming, I'm jumping, we're moving. And it's like, I love that they said and made it a point of like, there will be a match where you can create it with your friends and go play AI bots so people can get better and learn the game. And I love that, right? I don't think we get enough of that in a lot of these first person shooter games where it's like, hey, hold up, like, let's give the opportunity for people to learn. And you're right, Parris, is like, that will be interesting to see, because I know for a fact if the cheese is there, I'm running to it, right? I'm a Call of Duty guy. If people are leveling up their guns in a cheesy fashion way, I have to do it too, because we've seen they're going to get the competitive edge, and that's just unfair to me. So it will be interesting to see, but I wanted to bring up the opposite side because I did love the possibility of allowing people to learn and get better, which will be really, really cool.
Agreed.
That's going to be really good, especially for folks who don't know how to pilot, aircraft and stuff like that, because that's one of the hardest parts about Battlefield. I mean, it's one of the hardest parts about Battlefield, right? Which is vehicle stuff, and I don't think it's cool because they've implemented a way, and we're probably going to talk about that in a couple of seconds. Is about vehicle combat in Battlefield is always integral to getting a win. You have to have people who are both taking ground forces and air forces in good ways, and most times when you wind up doing that. We have Mike, who's the best pilot in all of video games on the show, but most people are not good at being a pilot in Battlefield games. I am awful at it, and now having those bot matches, it gives me a landscape to kind of learn and play, and also scope the map out to see where they're going to wind up kind of having those points of interest, which I think is actually going to be really good for the community going forward too.
So well said. And what I'm excited about the bot matches is it reduces the frustration of, if you remember any other Battlefield game, there's only so many air units that you can get. And what that means is when I'm dead and I'm waiting to spawn, I'm just right clicking over and hoping to God I get that one airplane that finally blows up and I can spawn on it. So I think that will be a great way for people to learn of, like, the air bots are going to let you take that first. Hopefully, we don't know yet, but you would assume that it's going to be always your first dibs, which will be great to learn. Because, those fighter pilot jets are very tough to figure out. And it's always frustrating when you jump into a game and there's only 3 and everybody else and their mother's trying the same move that I'm doing to try to spawn into it, which will be interesting. But let's talk about the vehicles, because they brought that up during our time with them. And it's really interesting. So everybody will be able to call in their own personal vehicle, like just call it in, throw it down, and it will come to you. Much different than games past there, guys. That's kind of an interesting move. They didn't answer the question about the air vehicles, though, and I was a little disappointed because I wanted to know what that process would be if it's the same move.
Yeah, I think they talked about there being a limit of how many you can have on the map at a time based on the allocation of what you would be able to have. But I think it goes back to the conversation around, the maps being bigger, you having more points of interest, you having those clusters, and how, what you talked about, Mike, about I don't want to be in the middle of the map running for days trying to get to my squad because everybody hopped in a Humvee and dipped on me. You now can call in your own vehicle. And it actually is, from a tactical standpoint, adds this extra layer to it where you can now maneuver your team. I spawn on all of you. We call in a vehicle. We then make a flanking route to get to another part of the map that we weren't able to do before, because usually all those vehicles are at the spawn point of the furthest spawn point in the map, which adds this whole other layer of things that we're going to be able to see. Plus being able to squish somebody with a vehicle that you spawn into the map is going to be real fun, because that's going to be real dope when we wind up doing that too.
That was like at the beginning of Warzone when kids figured out that you would die underneath the care package, and if you could just get the loadout to drop just right on somebody, you could have an epic moment. So that will be really exciting. And I think that's also positive. Like you brought up, Kahlief, like we were playing Battlefield 5 and we were running through the desert from point E all the way to the middle points. And I looked at my friend and was like, what are we doing? Like, why am I running for a whole 45 seconds here? I need some movement here. And so that will be really cool to see. And I think it will add an extra layer of a lot more fun to be had, especially on these larger scale maps. I don't know. I'm pretty pumped about it. I also liked that they touched on elevating passengers inside the vehicles, right? Everybody has a purpose. Everybody feels like they're part of it, right? Tell me about that, Parris. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's fantastic. And it adds another layer of engagement while you're traversing in a vehicle, basically trying to get to the next point, right? If there's an ambush somewhere, now other players in the vehicles have something to do. Or if you are full on in an engagement in a vehicle, everyone has a role to play. while they're in the vehicle. And it's smart because it's taking away some of the downtime in there. You got to constantly have your head on a swivel while you're in there playing the game, because you maybe needed to do something, and it's like, well, dude, why weren't you ready? We were supposed to do this. This is why we all died. I can hear me yelling already. So it's like, yeah, it's freaking great.
It's really, really cool, right? And let's touch on the next part, which is you, the player, and what you're going to be doing with your loadout and class, because we know in Battlefield, there's always been 4 traditional classes that you would choose from, with the assault, the medic, the recon, and the engineer. Now we're kind of moving away from that, Kahlief, and we're going to give a lot more freedom to the players, which I thought was a huge, awesome moment for me, right? I'm really, really excited about this specialist system. I know you're pumped to tell me about it, so why don't you just tell me all about it?
The thing that made me the most excited and hyped for all of the stuff that they talked about when it came to you as a player was the plus system. And my goodness, so the folks who don't know what a plus system is, usually when you are in the middle of a fight, you're kind of stuck with the loadout that you currently have. You can't really change anything out. You really have to either die and then wait to come back into the game and do that in between your next spawn. Now you'll be able to pop up a menu that pops up in the UI and swap out scopes, barrels, all that kind of stuff, and potentially equipment within your kit that you have for your character, which is pretty fantastic. It is the one thing that I feel was the kind of thing that was hampering the gameplay system. We see in other games you have the kind of the gunsmith version of that, but now being able to do that and basically making your kit on the fly, which makes every combat situation more literally situational. That is going to be a huge thing for the Battlefield community. I don't know how much that's going to wind up changing gameplay from a moment to moment kind of way. But I feel like it's going to be something where, again, you have those conversations about Battlefield moments. And just imagine you're in a spot where you're hunkered down in a space and you're like, all right, this is a close quarter space. You wind up kind of maneuvering out of that. You have your red dot scope on, you have your kind of fast clip, you're pushing through with your teammates. You wind up moving out into a bigger space and you're like, oh, wow, I need to have a kind of medium to long range engagement here. Let me throw on an ACOG scope in between the time that you went from point A to point B. That's going to be wild. How dope that's going to be when you're able to kind of make those changes.
Think of it this way, Kai. Think of us playing this game 6 months from now. Once we know how the landscape, we know how it works, we know what all the attachments, we know all the gear, the weapons, we have that knowledge base, and you start going into these engagements as a team. All right, Mike, we're going close quarters. I'm gonna need you to pick up I'm gonna equip it. Like, the communication level is gonna just be outstanding with these advanced teams, to where rookie teams, unorganized teams are not going to have a chance, because because the fact that you're going to be able to have the specific loadouts for the specific characters going into these engagements is going to be top notch. So I absolutely think this is going to change a lot of the engagements that we have moving forward once people kind of get their feet wet, understand how the game works. So yeah, when they started talking about that, I was like, oh my God, I can see the possibilities already. This is going to be. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
That is the evolution of the first-person shooter and on-the-fly game. That's a levolution, Parris. I feel that right now because it's the truth. It's really cool. Of like, we've always grown up of like, there's weapons on the map. Then it turned into create your loadout before you jump into the game. Then Call of Duty recently was like, hey, you know that loadout you got? If you press pause, we'll let you change it. And the next time you die, we'll let you have that new loadout. Now Battlefield's like, well, guess what? We'll do it right now in real time. Forget all that. You don't have to die. We'll give it to you right now. And that is awesome to see. And Parris, you said it so well. It's like, that's going to change the dynamic of the game so much and add that extra layer that we always talk about of like, what new things are you doing? What are you going to do to elevate that normal first-person run-of-the-mill gameplay? And here it is, right? Like, here's another layer that you're going to love on top of this. In Battlefield, there's the only in Battlefield moments that we talk about, which I really love. And continuing with the character, the specialist. Right, we're leaving those 4 locked-in classes where guns would be tied to certain classes. Now we're going to move into 10 specialists. We got to see 4 when we were having our conversation, and these specialists will still kind of hang in the realm of the 4 classes, but they're going to have a lot more freedom, and that's what it's all about in this game, is you being you, and that's what I'm really excited of. Each specialist will have a special gadget for them and a certain traits. After that, you get to choose the secondary gadgets, the traits, and any weapon you want to rock. So if I want to be a recon class, I'm not stuck to just the sniper rifle. If I want to be the medic class, I don't have to just have an SMG. I can go anywhere. And I think that freedom is what was lacking in these past couple of installments of we grew up with the class system. We evolved past that to anybody should be able to play anything. And now this specialist system sounds like they really are figuring it out and finding their footing here.
Ooh, it's going to be so cool to see how, because another thing that I always wanted being in the conversation was because you had those very kind of locked in classes, you had to depend on people who might not necessarily know what to do.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I need someone to repair our car. You're like, why are you over there playing as a sniper role all the way over there across the map on top of a building when I need you to be over here repairing stuff? You can change the way that, again, you're not only playing, but you wind up being, depending upon how you kind of think about your role, a jack of all trades. You can be more things for more people at more times during a map, which I think is going to be the coolest part of that. I wonder how that's going to wind up playing when, you get to the end of a game and you kind of see all the statistics that you wind up having. You're like, oh, I healed for this much. Oh, I reconned for this much. I wonder, like, it's just going to be like 2 minutes of like your progression bar moving up and up and up because you've done so many different various things throughout a particular map. So it's going to be nuts to see where people kind of take that and what the meta is going to wind up being for a game like this. And if there even is going to be a meta in the way that we think about it.
I'm really excited. And this is one thing, this is the positive of moving away from those World War I and II games like we talked about at the beginning, Kyle, right? It's like, now we get to have some cool gadgets, right? And so we know that one player has a grappling hook. The other guy has a drone, just like you've seen in the Division flying around, right? And then on top of that, the support class now, really, really cool, going to be able to have the revive/heal gun, right? And that reminds me of Rainbow Six Siege when you play as Doc and like, I'm hanging behind cover and you're over there. And it's like, oh, I just gave you a quick pistol shot and you're back in the fight. And I think that's where we go next, right? That's what we want to see, the roaming turret drones and anything else they can think of. And that's really exciting. And plus 10 right off the bat is going to be really allow you to play and change up what you want to do. I think that's a perfect number there to really try some new things.
Completely agree.
With that, let's pause and take a word from our sponsors for the week.
This episode is brought to you by Candid. If you're unhappy with your smile, you don't have to be. Thousands of people have used Candid, the clear, comfortable, and removable, practically invisible aligners to help straighten their teeth, and now they love their smile. Just like Sharon H. from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania does. She says, I wore braces as a teenager. Flash forward 30 years, I had crowding on the bottom and one of my teeth actually stuck out. That's when I made the decision to move forward with Candid and I finally got my confidence back. You could be just like Sharon. Your treatment is prescribed and closely monitored remotely by a licensed orthodontist who's an expert in tooth movement. You'll have the same quality of care you'd get from an in-office orthodontist from the comfort and convenience of your own home. And we all love that nowadays. And while other companies use general dentists, Candid only works with orthodontist. With Candid, the same orthodontist who created your plan is with you from start to finish, so you never have to wonder how you're doing. The average Candid treatment's just 6 months. You'll start seeing results way before then, and it costs thousands less than traditional braces. One of my really good friends, Danny, has used this and loves it in his teeth, looking fantastic. You can become your best you. Start straightening your teeth today. Right now, you can save $75 on Candid starter kit. Go to candidco.com/kindafunny and use code kindafunny. That's candidco.com/kindafunny, code kindafunny. Take advantage of this limited time offer to save $75 on your starter kit. candidco.com/kindafunny, code kindafunny. Next up, shout out to Purple Mattresses. As the world becomes increasingly uncomfortable, we're all looking for as much comfort as we can get. And that's why I love my Purple pillow. Joey loves her Purple mattress. We're talking soft, we're talking comfort. And my favorite thing about it all is we're talking about a pillow that never gets hot. You never need to flip it to the cold side of the pillow because both sides are always just perfect for me. I love it, been using it for years, and I will never turn back. Purple is comfort reinvented. Only Purple has the Grid, a stretchy gel material material that's amazingly supportive for your back and legs while cushioning your shoulders, neck, and hips. I don't know how it works. It does, and it's awesome. Because of how it's designed, the grid doesn't trap air. Air actually circulates and flows through it, so you never overheat. And I tend to overheat, so this is great for me. Right now, you can try your Purple mattress risk-free with free shipping and returns. Financing is available too. Purple really is comfort for an uncomfortable world. Right now, you'll get 10% off any order of $200 or more. Go to purple.com/games10 and use promo code games10. That's purple.com/games10, promo code games10 for 10% off any order of $200 or more. Purple.com/games10, promo code games10. Terms apply. And finally, I want to give a shout out to Upstart. When it comes to paying off debt, it can often feel like an uphill battle. High interest rates resulting in minimum monthly payments keeps you in an endless cycle of debt. Upstart can help you get ahead. Are you carrying a credit card balance month after month? You're not the only one. High interest rates make it hard to pay off your debt, but Upstart can help. Join the thousands of happy borrowers who made that final payment, just like my friend James, who's now in a much better situation than he was before. Used to have a debt in a lot of places, was able to consolidate in one place thanks to Upstart, and now he's fully paid off. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple fixed monthly payment. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny. That's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use this URL to let them know that we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and other certain information provided in your loan application. Upstart.com/kindafunny.
All right, guys, let's get back into it. A lot of fun going on here, talking the new Battlefield, the next generation. But when we talk about generations, guys, we got to talk about where we're at today. We're only 7 months removed from the new consoles. We've always had this conversation of, will it be on this? Will it not be on that? Where's it at? We do know that this Battlefield will be released on last gen tech and new gen tech. Are we happy with them pursuing both angles here? Parris, what are you feeling with this?
I'm okay with it. This early in the generation, it just makes sense. You're not going to leave behind the people that are still on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. We're already seeing, even just in this iteration, they are taking advantage of the new hardware in certain scenarios. Obviously, look at the player count as an example. I think the fact that this is now going multiplayer only, and again, this is an assumption on my part. They didn't say that. They're probably leveraging some cloud features as well, like as far as Azure goes, and obviously just it not having to worry about being peer-to-peer as far as connection goes, things like that. So yeah, it's I don't even say it sucks. I don't want to say it sucks. What I want to say is, because I'm thinking, we're not going to have the quote unquote cross generational play, because if you're on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, you're only going to get to play with those players, where obviously the next gen people are going to play with that and PC. And please correct me if I'm wrong. They didn't talk cross play yet.
They haven't not answered that.
Yeah, I didn't think they did. So that's still on the table to see how that's going to work out. Yeah, for this to start off the generation and to get what we're getting right now, I'm fine with it. I don't have an issue at all. I still think, they're doing some very unique things, even on the last gen hardware and obviously on the next gen hardware, that it's going to be a fun experience.
Yeah. I'm curious about, and I don't think I also heard about cross progression, which I think is actually, again, I think is going to be the thing that when we still have these kind of vestiges of older consoles still kind of coming into the space against newer consoles. Again, Xbox has done a great job of delivering on smart delivery and having that be a thing that is in the space as a concept and as a thing that they have nailed in this early part of the generation, which I think, again, changes a lot of the conversation about where you wind up buying that game initially, especially if you are on and in the Xbox ecosystem. But I think that's the thing that I'm always curious about now when we have these conversations about moving from the previous gen to the current gen. Is your game thinking about how you deal with progression and your saves in that way? Because if I'm playing in a space where I know that progression is going to happen, I'm less worried about it. I'm not thinking about it that much because I'm like, I don't have the money for an Xbox Series X now. I'll wait and still rock it on my older console. But then when I do have the money for it, I can still play with my friends with all the bells and whistles on and knowing my progression is going to come with me when I wind up moving to the next console. So it will be interesting to see how they tackle that, if they tackle it, if it's going to be a thing that's in that space. And then again, what is going to be the experience that those folks on those previous gen consoles are going to have? We know they're not going to have as many people to shoot in the butt, but they will have some of the ability to kind of understand what the game is going to look like on that platform. So we'll see what it winds up looking like when they wind up putting it out in the world.
Actually, kind of, you just brought up a great point about shooting people in the butt and having enough people. Yeah. Believe it or not, again, this is the whole cross-play issue, which we'll be curious to see how this is resolved. I would say people playing on previous generation are going to have more people to play with than they will on the new generation. Obviously, at least early on, just simply supply and demand. There's just simply not enough PlayStation 5s and Series X's out there in the wild to have a high player count. So in that way, I think crossplay is going to be critical, especially if I'm thinking next gen now, PS5, Series X, PC. I hope there's crossplay there just for the player count alone. Because if not, if I'm on just PlayStation 5 or just on Series X, when we talk about AI, you're going to have a whole lot of AI bots in your match because there's just not going to be enough people to play against, right? So I'm hopeful for that. I hope that does get announced, because that obviously, in where we are now with the way games is going, I think that's a critical component as well. But you do bring up the great point about cross progression as well. If I start off on Xbox One, been having a good time, loving what I'm doing, I go pick up a Series X. Does all my progress follow me?
Yep.
So hopefully we'll get some answers on that too.
Yeah.
My dream things for all multiplayer games from 2021 onward: cross-play, cross progressions, private matches, and a little sprinkle on top, a killer spectate mode. Spectate mode would be great. Awesome. Please remember that. It would be so awesome.
Oh my God.
Right?
Think about the spectator mode in this game if they nail this.
Oh, it'd be incredible.
Think about this. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I'm a really take you back, since this is the 20-year anniversary of Xbox and this is an Xbox show.
Yeah.
I want some Gotham TV. Remember that?
Yes.
Gotham TV. I want that.
It was so good. It was so good. It was so good. It was very, very good.
School me, Parris. Tell me, for me and the people that don't know, school me.
Oh, it's your young ass. Okay, so this had to have been Project Gotham Racing 3, because I'm pretty sure this was the launch of the 360. And actually, Perfect Dark Zero had this too. Theirs was called Kill TV, I believe. So this was early day spectator mode. So in Project Gotham Racing 3, you could watch other races with you out participating in, and they called it Gotham TV, so you could tune in. And then Perfect Dark Zero had it in their multiplayer mode. It was called Kill TV, where you could literally watch multiplayer matches unfold, like from different angles, things like that. So it's like whenever I think about spectator mode, I always gravitate back to that. I always think of Gotham TV. I always thought that was a cool concept. Yeah.
It was super interesting.
You know what, Parris? I'm going to keep that in my back pocket, because that's the next evolution of spectate mode. Instead of me actually being in the next evolution, y'all, instead of me actually being in the game and like being a part of it, to just jump in and click on that. That's a great site right there, Parris. I really, really love that, because I know, who else does that is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate does that, where you can spectate and actually like kind of bet on who you think will win. You can sit there. Of course, the online is not that incredible, but we will give it some props for that. Back to the cross generation, I agree with you guys. I'm so happy to hear that last gen is not going to be left alone, and I'm really happy that they have a focus on that. Right, they're going to dial back the maps. They're really going to fine tune it to that 64 player count, and it really seems like they're going to put a good effort into that. And also, Parris, you said it so well. Battlefield, we've touched on, you and I. Battlefield and Halo and Call of Duty are all some of the biggest first-person shooters on the planet. They're always going to find the biggest attach rate, right? They're going to be on that last gen console. They're not going to leave that. It's a lot of dollars, a lot of players that need this. And especially for Battlefield and Halo, which we talk about on the Xbox show, is like, hey, we need this player base. We need people to get involved in our franchise and believe in it moving forward. So on the next installment, when everybody has the next gen, they believe in it and want to play it. So this is the right move for that team to put a focus over there and not leave them behind. And it will be interesting to see cross-play, what they do, if they do it. And you're right. Are we going to be on an island? Right? How many consoles really in the wild, and how many are going to be playing Battlefield? It will be interesting to see if I'm just kind of on an island looking around going, Well, there's Parris and about 52 bots over there. This is going to be a tough game, you know? So that won't be fun.
I just want to ask a question really quick, because you brought up Halo, and you guys seem really excited about everything you've seen with the reveal and everything. And the one thing that I haven't heard at all yet is Battle Royale. And with how excited you guys are with this is just a question that I have, is... Do you still think, Mikey, that Halo needs a battle royale to be relevant in the conversation, with you guys being so excited with Battlefield Next Gen without even having a conversation about battle royale?
Well, why don't we pause that? Let's put a pin in that, because we're going to bring it back full circle. Let's talk about the 3 game modes of Battlefield. We got to see one that they talked about. They teased another, and then there's the third one we don't know anything about and will be talked about at a later date. So to start, of course, All Out Warfare, the next generation of fan favorite modes, Conquest and Breakthrough, featuring the largest map ever for the franchise and for the first time up to 128 players. Hazard Zone is the second game mode that players will see, an all-new high-stakes squad-based game type for the Battlefield franchise that is a modern take on the multiplayer experience that is distinctively DICE, but very different from all-out Warfare, Conquest, or Breakthrough modes. And then the third mode, TBD, to be announced at a later date. The third experience, being developed by DICE LA, is another exciting new game type for the franchise. This experience is a love letter to Battlefield fans and one that the longtime players will feel right at home with. Tune into EA Play live on July 22nd for all the details. So Barrett brought up Battle Royales. I've been beating the drum on these 2 franchises coming back into the scene, trying to be relevant again, fighting for the space, how I believe they needed a dope Battle Royale to fight against the Fortnites, the Apexes, and the Warzones. This team right here, when we saw this reveal, no Battle Royale to talk about. Is that a hit or a miss? What do you think, Parris, right now?
Now, didn't they say like what EA LA is working on is not Battle Royale? They said that.
When they were talking, Parris, and I don't want to misspeak, but this is what I believe they said, because there was there was a lot of questions for Battle Royale, and they said not at launch, not right now. And so I don't know if that means we'll see this at this TBD, but it doesn't sound like a Battle Royale at all or in the cards.
Because it also says it's a new game type for the franchise, and Battlefield has dipped into Battlefield. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Here's what I think. And this just covers all of these future multiplayer games in general. You can include everything can be included in this. I don't think, even if there is a Battle Royale mode, they're not going to call it Battle Royale anymore. They're going to call it something else, and they're going to put a unique twist on it. Go, see, it's not Battle Royale. We do this, and Battle Royale doesn't do that. That's what I think, personally. I mean, we'll see. Let's put it this way. Right on the other side of this wall, I know there's an 11-year-old child that has been playing Fortnite all day. That's all. I do know that.
Yeah.
So we clearly know that it is very popular with the youths. And, old fogies like us may not feel like we need it. But the youth, they sure do. They seem to really like it. So we'll see.
The Utes them. It's funny too, because you said the other mode was called Hazard Zone, right? That was it? Mike?
Yes, that is correct. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere around one of Parris's grills, I would figure that would be the same.
Oh, he had to see Parris. He teed it up just so he could do it. He teed me up for that.
Yeah.
One.
Anyway,
the time is coming.
I know it is. I'm scared. Anyway, the funny thing is, they interestingly kind of not dodge that question around Battle Royale stuff, but it's funny because if you look at the stuff that they had in some of the game types and some of the modes that was already there, they have the air of what a Battle Royale would be. You have the moving sandstorm, you have the tornado that comes through and it kind of throws everything around. You can easily see how that would kind of correlate to what could potentially be a Battle Royale mode. But I agree with what Parris said about the idea around the word Battle Royale has a certain layer to it now that is, I'm not going to say tainted, but it brings about a certain kind of pigeonholing of what you think that content can be. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody's trying to move away from that to a certain extent, because there is a layer of what your expectations are that go along with that. And if you don't meet those expectations, then your game has this kind of albatross over its neck already. So I think we will see something that is going to be Battle Royale like, but I don't think that, like Parris said, it'll be called a Battle Royale. They'll try to make a new term so that they can coin it. And that will be the thing that, like Levolution, it will be the thing that is attached to their series and to their franchise in a way that other games don't get a chance to call their modes as well. So it makes a lot of sense.
These two have said it well, and we've talked about it with Gary as well. Of you have two options here. You can either go down the Battle Royale road, where it's just like Kahlief said, there's like a number of key points you have to hit, and it better be perfect because you're going up against all of our expectations. Or the new way, which is, how do you elevate that and change it and make something new and exciting? And I think that's what a lot of these teams are faced with, which is either option one, where we know we're going to battle against the big three and everybody's going to expect something perfect, or option two, where it is, yeah, we know that they got that, but maybe we can put our own spin on it and maybe it will bite. And if it doesn't, we never did a Battle Royale. It wasn't that big of a deal and we keep it moving. But I think Battlefield and Halo are probably looking at that. I mean, I read Hazard Zone, an all-new high-stakes squad-based game type for the Battlefield franchise. And I think Hazard, I think squad-based, I'm like, okay, maybe this is their spin. This is their little touch on what this could be, right? High-stakes squad-based. When I think of Battle Royale, I think of the most competitive game mode you can play, and that's what I'm looking for. So we don't know anything about Hazard Zone, but I look forward to learning more about it. And I think same goes for Halo, right? Halo has one of two options. You either go down the line and you battle with everybody with the name and you hope that the game is perfect, or you create something new and exciting that could steal that player base, like Warzone 2.0. We talked about this with Halo. They have Warzone, which is that big PvP, PvE situation, and it's big team battle. Can you elevate that in any way, shape, or form to really make this a big splash? Maybe, but I'm going to still stick with mine of these two should and need to have Battle Royales to really make a dent in this market, because Call of Duty Warzone is still going to be there, and it's free to play. Apex is still there, and it's free to play. And so is Fortnite, and they're only getting bigger.
Here's a question for both of you really quickly. Do you think that with Battlefield 2042 being in the space now, that you will see a big, because, think about COD right now and think about Fortnite, where a lot of their player base is feeling like things are gotten kind of stagnant. Do you feel like this game is going to reinvigorate those folks to maybe try something new or return back to the series if they were looking forward to it?
I think it's going to be tough. I do. I do. I honestly do. And this is nothing against anything that we got to see in the preview, because I liked it personally. But I do think there's a stigma out there in the community about Battlefield coming off of 5. And they're going to have to do a lot to prove that they're shaking things up. They're doing something unique. They're doing something that you want to engage with. I just made the analogy, with my daughter playing Fortnite. You're fighting against Fortnite. You're fighting against Apex. Halo's going to obviously now come into the mix. The juggernaut that is Call of Duty. Battlefield has you can bring Overwatch into it. Valorant. I mean, there's so many other multiplayer titles that are out there right now that are fighting for our attention. And the ones that have a negative connotation to them, it's an uphill battle. I don't care how good it is. It really doesn't matter. You got to prove it to me. They got to get a good word of mouth going. They got to get, I think whatever they do the rest of the summer leading up to launch, they really are going to have to start engaging the community and start engaging creators and get people talking and get hands-on with Battlefield through betas or whatever they need to do to actually show that, okay, we're on to something here. This ain't Battlefield 5. We know what that mistake was. We fixed it. Here's your proof. You get hands-on for free through a beta or whatever. Try it for yourself. Play it. Here's your favorite streamer playing it. Look how much fun he's having. All right, try it. You know what I'm saying? Leading up to launch. So I think that's part of it. Obviously, this is the kickoff to it. Everything that we're talking about right now has been overwhelmingly positive. I mean, there's a couple things, like we said, with the AI that potentially could be a thing, but even I think that's pretty minor in the grand scope of things. I mean, but my overall view of it is highly positive. I definitely would recommend people to want to engage with this game, but they're not necessarily going to listen to me, you, or Mike. Well, Mike, I guess you're young, but our two old asses, they'd be like, they don't know what they're talking about.
You ain't supposed to be out here anyway.
Yeah, exactly. but the point is, I do think there's still some prove it left for Battlefield to capture that audience. Like the traditional people, the hardcore people, they're there day one. As with any franchise, your hardcore audience will always be there, but it's the people that are sitting on the fence. They got to convince them to jump in, and I think they're off to a good start. Obviously, we'll see what some of these reveals look like over the summer, but until people get this thing in their hands, we're just simply not going to truly know.
See, I agree with Parris Cobb, but I'm a little bit different. So I actually think everything that Parris says, that kicks in 3 months down the road. I know for a fact that Battlefield will have the same Battlefield reception on day one because we're all burnt out on all of these multiplayer shooter games that we've already played. And Battlefield always brings a different taste to the genre. It always brings that wow factor that only in Battlefield moments, as they coin the term, right? And so everybody's going to see that. Everybody's going to latch onto it. And they're going to be like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air. I'm having so much fun. This is so cool. But then 3 months down the road, will they have that same feeling? Or will they go back to what they're used to, what they love? And I think a big one for me on my side is the competitive edge, right? You touched on it being that kind of tiny cog in the whole big match, but it doesn't feel like anything happened there, as opposed to the battle royales where you're number one, as opposed to the Valorants or the Overwatches where you have a big factor in it and it's that competitive feel. You look at Fortnite, you look at Apex, those are the games that people love. And so I think Battlefield will have a huge reception at launch, but their biggest moment here is after that first 30 days into the 3-month window, what are you doing to keep people engaged? How are you stealing away the audience and keeping them with you? Because everything that Parris said, that kicks in for me right after the launch has happened and all the hype has died down. That's 3 months down the road. You got a battle now.
The interesting part about that, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it yet, was the conversation around battle passes for this game too, which is, again, I think the thing you see in COD and with Overwatch and with the other Fortnite is that the thing that is really bringing people back into those games in a big way are the cosmetics. And I feel like that part in the Battlefield series is a lot harder because you're kind of playing in this kind of semi-future tech space that doesn't necessarily lend to this fantastical kind of like, garments that you could be able to put on. Like you're not going to see Rick and Morty in Battlefield 2042 rolling around, even though it would be dope to see that be a thing. They're going to have to try to figure out good ways to extend that kind of hype throughout their battle passes and that kind of stuff to see people kind of stick into that space. Parris, you were gonna add some to that.
No,
right?
you're touching on it. I was going to bring up the battle pass stuff as well, because that's going to be interesting. You actually bring up the great point. Part of the appeal of the Fortnites and all that are the cosmetics and like you said, Rick and Morty, the Avengers, all the stuff that they're able to put in. That's how they keep getting people to come back. But it brings me back to my original point, and I totally get what you're saying, Mike. The hardcore is going to be there day one. And like you're saying, there will be that introductory audience that's going to come in because it's something new. I guess what I'm trying to overall say is enough going to be there at launch to get them to stay. That's what I'm saying. Is there enough flair and fun and action and engagement that in month 4, month 5, I still want to hop on every Friday night with my buddies to go play Battlefield 42? That's kind of the $1 million question that we just simply can't answer until we get to that point. But it brings back to the overall thing of, like Kaz saying, with the battle passes and the other the shiny that attracts people to want to keep coming back to those things. Is Battlefield going to have that? I don't know. And again, it's weird because this is just one of those times where I feel like I'm in that audience for a Battlefield, so they got me. It's just like we talk about this with Halo. I'm there day one anyways.
Right.
It doesn't matter what they do. I'm still going to play it day one because I'm a fan. But I tend to look at the people that they didn't grow up with Battlefield. They didn't grow up, Mike, with Gotham TV. Kidding, but they didn't grow up, with these games. And you're now trying to capture them for the first time to come in, or maybe they were excited for the last one for Battlefield 5 and you let them down. Now you're trying to convince them a second time to want to come play. That's going to be an interesting thing. And again, we're in a preview, so this is obviously a conversation for another day, long term. But I think on the surface, for what we're seeing, this looks great. This is what I wanted them to do. Like I said, I feel like I'm getting my Battlefield 3 again with 2042. I love the maps, everything, the weapons, everything that we got to see in the preview. I'm just very interested to see if other people think the same way I do, because I am a little bit biased because I'm a fan of the series, whereas not everyone will be. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, for me, it's those 2 other game modes, right? That's going to be that flashes, right, Parris, of like, we know what we're getting into, and new fans will quickly learn what Conquest and Breakthrough mode are. But like, what are those other 2 that really make you say, wow? And that's going to be the biggest one as we learn more of like, what is that flash? What is that hotness that you're bringing, that difference? And I'm going to keep my eyes on those 2 game modes, because I think that will be very, very important for sure to keep people around. Tell me, Kyle.
Really, really quick. I think there's other 2 points that I think that the EA is really going to have to nail in this game to really pull in that new audience in that way. Is they have to, again, we've said the word many, many times. It feels like saying Beetlejuice. But Levolution and TV. What that's going to want. Gotham TV. But it's going to have to be that. Like, I think, what is the thing that makes Battlefield right now that game that is different than all the other ones? You have kind of a military tactical shooter, but less sim in that way for my sports fans. And you have that kind of Levolution world building, world destruction thing that's in the space that makes that difference. The thing that's going to hold people here is if they continue to add that with more maps more often.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be the thing that's going to actually keep people excited about this thing, is like, you give me another map where I can blow up the whole dam, change the whole way that the map looks, and then change how tactics wind up working. And I can trigger that as a player. Like, Mike, when we go and play stuff, we play COD and we're like, oh, we got to run to get the Juggernaut and see if we can go hit the buttons in all the other parts of the map. Like, those things are those Battlefield moments that if you nail enough of those and show that on a consistent basis, and it actually affects the way that you can win a map, that's what's going to be the thing that keeps people coming back to Battlefield.
Yeah, I want those. Yeah, go Parris, go.
Oh, no, I was just going to simply add on to that. I think the other thing that Battlefield has that it will get it to stand out from the rest is that toolbox, is that sandbox of just the various vehicles and everything that you're going to do. Like you said, Mike, the Levolution of it all and all that. That's the secret sauce that they have an advantage over everyone else, because, we joked about, I crash a plane every time, but when you get into that loop and you understand how the vehicles work and you're able to use that to your advantage in a tactical sim type of way in a Battlefield game, it's special. It is. I just hope people give that a chance, a long enough of a chance to actually understand that that's how this game works when you compare it to a COD or an Apex or whatever.
Totally. I'm so excited to see what they can do with the Levolution and, of course, the destructible environments. And now this extra layer of like kind of dynamic weather and these world altering events. What could that be? Right. They touched on a sandstorm and the Twister. And now it's like, well, give me a giant rainstorm or give me fog, give me a snowstorm. And like, I also want to keep in mind, we play these games a lot and everybody's going to play this same map over and over again. I don't want this on a timer. I want this to be dynamic. I want this to hit on any moment, and it could change the tide of battles, because I feel like we get into some modes where it's like, oh, about halfway through the map, this is about to happen or something like that, right? So I'm looking for like, could be the final part of the map, could be the beginning. I want you to wow me and make sure that every single time I play, it's fresh and new,
Yeah, if they can make it dynamic in a way where you just don't have an expectation for where things going to hit, that changes everything. It changes so much of how you play that game in a real way. So I'm hyped about that for sure.
I'm making myself laugh because I'm looking at my notes, and I did have, by the weather effects, I did put in parentheses dynamic question mark, so they didn't answer that. But right after that, I put Levolution is back, LOL.
It's so cool, that term that we talk about, right, of Levolution, and how they've really, made it their own, and you don't see it much in other worlds. And they kind of actually broke down Levolution in a cooler way, because we keep screaming Levolution, and some people might think, oh, you mean just blowing up the side of the building? No, they went more in depth on it. Of like, Levolution is that one big moment in the match where you can start it, and it is that tower coming down. It is that one big thing that only happens once, right? But then we go into the next level, which is destructible environments, and that's what they've done so well of, hey, there's Parris up in that sniper tower, and I'm sick of him up there. And you take that rocket launcher and you blow off side of the roof, and he comes down, and it's like, nobody else does that, and they continue to do so well at doing that. And I hope that they add on with this dynamic weather, whatever kind of big event they're doing here with what it looks like.
The other part that we missed was a part of the map that had the crates on it, and the shipping crates. And the shipping crates will move around the map. So basically, there's a crane that will pick up the shipping containers with you in it if you decide to ride in it, and then carry you around the map to whatever next section it is going to wind up plopping you down on. Just imagine you're in that, and you have a position where you can shoot down on other people, or somebody's not paying attention and you just get a shipping crate on their head because they weren't paying attention. Like, those moments too are going to be things that are going to be super, super wild to see how that kind of plays itself out in the game too.
Yeah, that's the Singapore map Manifest, where you can do that with the containers. And then the orbital, that's the French Ghana one with the rocket launch station. So that's part of that Levolution. I think you're either trying to stop the rocket from taking off, or it does take off and that changes the landscape. There was something like that happened in there as well. So yeah, it's gonna be some cool stuff. As much as I joke about the Levolution gimmick stuff, I mean it's pretty freaking cool if you pull it off the right way during a match. Yeah,
it's the coolest. The only worry that I have is, and we should touch on it right now, is the squad size, right? We jump in with 4 people. That's traditional for Battlefield. But I'm going to have some jabroni over there doing the crane and be like, put it down. I need to get in it. And he's over there. And I'm like, I have no control over this. And so we go to 126. Are we expecting these squads to increase? They didn't answer that. They didn't touch on that. Like, do you guys want to see this taken up to 6, 10? Because, Kyle, you and I, when we play Warzone, I mean, I'm giving the boot to somebody. You know what I mean? We go play Apex. We go down to 3. I need 6. I need 10. I want all my friends involved.
I don't want more. I don't want
really
more. Oh, because think about the, like, if we all rock together, right? We all have been playing enough Battlefield and enough games with each other where we understand to a certain extent where and how each other plays. Parris knows that I can't make a jump in Destiny. I know that he can't shoot the side of a building. I know that you're the best chopper pilot on the planet. So we all know how things are going to work together to a certain extent. When you build out these super big groups, you're going to have those moments where people are just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I don't want to be frustrated at those people for not necessarily knowing what to do or how to play as a team in a game where this is the most team-based game you're going to have, where you're going to have to be jumping into a whole bunch of fights and a whole bunch of battles together to actually win. I remember, often being in bad squads and then be like, you know what? F this. I'm leaving. I'm playing solo for the rest of this match.
Yeah.
I'm rolling solo and I'll just figure it out on my own, or I'll just find another squad that has three out of 4 in it and I'll be that 4th. Right. So you don't want to kind of cluster them up into spaces where you're not going to have good cohesion. But you also don't want to have squads where you have the kind of outliers and the kind of folks who just want to kind of YOLO a bunch of stuff, because they never have fun and it winds up ruining the experience for you too.
Mike, I'm going to give you this analogy. So I'm not even going to use the Destiny one. I'm going to go to the Division 2.
Oh, God.
Have you ever done an 8-person raid in the Division 2? I'm going to assume no, because if you did, you would know that is like trying to herd cats.
It's the worst.
No, it is terrible. The communication is ridiculous. Like, even the 6-man in Destiny, I think, is pushing it. Keep it at 4. If anything, make it smaller. Make it 3. Because
okay.
Yeah, like Kyle is saying, being all serious, if you got the squad, if we had 10 people we could rely on that we know is going to communicate and do their job, I'm absolutely for it. It's just not realistic most times. It's just not practical. I do think 4 is probably the sweet spot when it comes to that, where I can get a reliable crew together. We know we're going to communicate. We know we're going to be in the right positions to where we need to be. If one of us screws up, and I yell at you because I do yell in these games. I'm sorry, but you're not going to take it personal, and we're going to get back on task. So I think beyond that, yeah, it's herding cats, dude. No,
Kyle, what are you doing over there, Kyle? Yeah. Why can't you make that jump? We've been here for 3 days.
What's wrong with you?
Make the jump.
I love the smiles. I love the energy. I love the excitement. And that is the reveal for Battlefield 2042. You got to see it. Let us know down in the comments down below. What did you think? What were some of your favorite moments? And what are you looking forward to out of the next generation of Battlefield? Guys, I want to go around one last time and just gauge how you're feeling, how we're looking heading into the summer, and, of course, release window for this game. I got to say, I want to bring up the reveal trailer and the coolest moment, which is the 2 jet fighters and the jet fighter flying up with the other dude on his tail. He jumps out of the jet. It's now free falling. He rocket launchers the other jet and somehow is able to just get back in his and fly off. That has to be the coolest idea you could ever put on screen and say, yo, you could do this in a video game. I love that. God, tell me your excitement level.
Fam, Battlefield is back for me. Like I am a person who was waiting for this franchise to come back in a big way. Anyone who was asking me about like, what's the thing you want to see come back? I was like, please make a Battlefield game and put it in the future because that's what I want. And getting a chance to see everything that we had a chance to see, I am infinitely excited about what this is going to be. Like one of those things where you know how it is when you want to be like an ambassador for a thing. When you see a thing and you're just like, yo, pick me. I want to be the person who wants to be an ambassador for this thing. Like, put me into your commercial, me shooting people in the air when I'm running around and doing stuff. Like I'm that hyped for this game because I just feel like they've figured it out and they understand what the fans want, and it feels like they're going to give them what the fans want in a real way. So I'm hyped for this in a big way.
Parris, closing thoughts on our little reveal talk?
Yeah, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, my hype level is probably at a Kahlief served you a meal and you just went to the ER. Like it's that high. That's how high it is. I'm super excited. I like kind of like hilarious. Oh, that's the best.
I was wondering like who was gonna walk away first throughout this episode. Who was gonna do it first?
No, I'm very excited for it. Like I said at the top, I'm getting that Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 vibe to it, and kind of like Kahlief said, the smartest thing they could have done was get this back to a modern / near future world where it allows them to really open up the toolbox and let us have fun in that sandbox with some unique weapons and vehicles and, gadgets and just everything else that's going to come with it. So I'm excited for it. High player count, really looking forward to checking it out, getting hands on with it on the PC and the next gen consoles. And it's going to be fun. We're looking forward to when they finally drop a beta for this thing.
Heck yeah. Battlefield is back, baby. Get ready for destructible environments, only in Battlefield moments. And of course, one of our favorite words here on the Kind of Funny Xcast, Levolution, y'all. And with that, let's get the heck out of here because E3 is right around the corner. And probably saying, man, you guys posted on Wednesday. Are you going to post on Saturday? No, we got a lot of E3 plans coming your way. We will post after the Microsoft E3 presentation. So don't expect a show on Saturday. Expect one on Sunday and or Monday when we get those live reactions coming out to you. But if you want to live react with us and enjoy the E3 hype, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames all weekend long. You can catch us having some fun with us and the gang over there. And I hope you do join us. And if you miss out, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames for all of the VOD. Parris, I missed you for 2 weeks. I'm so happy to have your smiling face back here. I love the energy. I love having you around. What dope stuff are you doing this week, and where can everybody find you?
You can obviously find me here on Kind of Funny. You can find me on Gamertag Radio, and I'm going to give a personal plug. I did a review. NVIDIA sent me the RTX 3080 Ti, and I have that review. It's about 11 minutes long. I have it up on my YouTube channel, which is my name, Parris, Parris. So you can go check that out over there. I joined the Kind of Funny crew over on Xcast, and we reviewed Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Fantastic. That's all I've been playing last week. It is the reason to go get a PlayStation 5, just put it simply. It is outstanding. Insomniac knocked it out of the park again. But that's pretty much it. Really looking forward to E3. Looking forward to seeing all the reveals and everything. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
I can't wait. I'm really, really excited to hang out with you and Gary and break it all down later on. But, of course, one guy who does it all in the industry. He's always got the spotlight. He's always doing dope stuff and really just bringing some good into the world. My guy, Kahlief. Ka, what are you up to? Where can everybody find you? And what's the dopeness happening?
Bam, I love you both. I'm so happy you got a chance to do this. I also hate you, Parris, but I love you. I have a lot of stuff happening this week alongside E3 coverage. I'll be helping our fam over at Fanbyte with some of their coverage. We're calling it Hot Game Summer. So we're going to be doing a whole bunch of cool stuff over there at Fanbyte. So you'll be able to catch me over on the weekend, checking out some of the conferences and all that stuff that's coming out there. Also, Academy Arts and Sciences. If you remember, I hosted DICE this year. DICE Summit. So a lot of the roundtables that we recorded are now getting pushed out. I recorded with some of the biggest names in the industry, 23 roundtables. So those are coming out right now. Also, I have a couple of guests coming up that you may want to check out. The Black Okage from Gaming Illuminati will be on the show very, very soon. And somebody by the name of Tim Schafer might be rolling through as well, coming through to spawn on me as well.
Oh, got him.
Coming through and hanging out, talking about some psychonauts. Psychonauts too. Coming through very, very soon. And yeah, you can check out the show, twitch.tv/spawn on me is where we do our live show every week, 6 p.m. PST is over there. And we just put up the Ratchet and Clank review as well. So thank you to everybody over at Sony for hooking us up. And it is a brilliant, brilliant game. Can't wait for all of you out in the world to go get a chance to play it.
Heck yeah. Go out and play some games and get ready to celebrate games at E3 over the weekend. This has been a special Kind of Funny Xcast with Ka, Parris, Barrett on the ones and twos, myself, talking about Battlefield 2042. Get ready for the next generation. Let us know in the comments down below how excited you are, and we'll see you during E3. Have a good one, gamers. Peace.